Ellen Ripley clone. Ellen Ripley Clone 8 in Alien Resurrection represents one of sci-fi's most disturbing explorations of what happens when human and monster DNA become inseparably fused. 200 years after Ellen Ripley's death in Alien 3, military scientists aboard the USM Auriga successfully clone her using blood samples that contain xenomorph DNA. The United Systems military conducts the cloning project specifically to extract the alien queen embryo growing inside Ripley at the time of her death. Clone 8 is the 8th attempt, with the previous 7 failures resulting in grotesque human-alien hybrids kept alive in laboratory containment. The cloning process inadvertently merges Ripley's human DNA with the xenomorph genetic material, creating a hybrid being. Clone 8 possesses enhanced strength, acidic blood, and cellular regeneration far beyond human capability. She retains Ripley's memories despite being a genetic copy, experiencing them as fragmented dreams and instinctual knowledge. The xenomorph DNA grants her an empathic connection to the aliens, allowing her to sense their presence and intentions. In the film's most disturbing sequence, Clone 8 discovers the failed clones 1 through 7, witnessing the horrific results of genetic contamination. Clone 7, a conscious but grotesquely deformed hybrid, begs for death before Clone 8 mercy kills her and then incinerates the entire lab with a flamethrower. This transformation explores the ultimate violation of identity, where the distinction between human and monster becomes biologically meaningless. Clone 8 is neither fully Ripley nor fully xenomorph, but something fundamentally new and tragic. Alex Murphy. RoboCop's transformation from murdered police officer to cybernetic law enforcer is one of sci-fi's most brutal rebirths. Detroit police officer Alex Murphy is brutally murdered by Clarence Boddicker's gang in Paul Verhoeven's 1987 film RoboCop. Gang members use shotguns to blow off Murphy's right hand and arm before Boddicker executes him with a point-blank headshot. Omni Consumer Products Corporation seizes Murphy's body, legally declaring him dead based on release forms he signed when joining the force. OCP technicians led by Morton take what remains of Murphy's face and portions of his still-living cerebrum and cerebellum. These organic components are installed in a full cybernetic body, effectively resurrecting Murphy as RoboCop. Murphy's face, central nervous systems, and some internal organs remain intact, while his limbs are replaced with a full cybernetic body. Various chips are implanted into his brain, and at least one eye is replaced with cybernetic components. The rest of his body is an artificial construct that can be dismantled and reassembled. Murphy's brain, nervous system, and personality remain intact, allowing him to gradually reassert his human identity. He eventually states his identity as Murphy rather than RoboCop, reclaiming his humanity despite his mechanical body. The 2014 remake starring Joel Kinnaman takes a different approach, showing Murphy aware he is human while struggling with robotic programming. In the remake, only Murphy's head with repaired cybernetic brain, respiratory organs, heart, and right hand remain from his original body. Dr. Norton reveals the horrifying truth to Murphy, who asks for euthanasia before being convinced to live for his family. RoboCop's transformation is significant because it asks profound questions about identity and humanity. If only fragments of a person remain encased in a machine programmed by a corporation, is that person still human? Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker's transformation into Darth Vader is perhaps the most iconic character rebirth in cinematic history. Anakin Skywalker is defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi on the lava planet Mustafar and left to burn after their duel. Emperor Palpatine rescues Anakin and brings him to a surgical reconstruction center where droids and surgeons rebuild his broken body. Expanded Star Wars lore suggests his mutilated limbs are replaced with inferior prosthetics that keep him in chronic pain. These unforgiving prosthetics function as both punishment for Anakin's failure and a tool of control. Anakin is encased in a life support suit that includes a mechanical respirator, creating his distinctive breathing sound. The suit and prosthetics cause constant environmental suffering and chronic pain. His voice becomes mechanized due to the respiratory system. Anakin's skin becomes a mixture of synthetic components and necrotic tissue. The transformation is both physical and psychological, as he loses his identity as Anakin and becomes Vader. His psychological transformation involves suppressing memories of Padme and embracing hatred toward the Jedi. Vader's redemption comes decades later when his love for his son Luke allows Anakin to resurface. In his final moments, Luke removes Vader's mask, and Anakin dies peacefully, redeemed. Darth Vader's transformation represents the ultimate fall from grace and eventual redemption. What makes it particularly tragic is that Palpatine deliberately engineered his suffering and expanded lore, keeping Vader in constant pain as both punishment and control mechanism. The transformation destroyed Anakin's identity so thoroughly story that even he believed Anakin was dead until his son's love proved stronger than the dark side. Wikus Van De Merwe. District 9's Wikus undergoes one of Sci-Fi's most disturbing transformations when alien DNA rewrites his entire biology. Wikus Van De Merwe accidentally sprays himself with a mysterious alien fluid while evicting prawns from District 9 in Neil Blomkamp's 2009 film. The fluid contains prawn DNA that acts as a biological repair mechanism, treating his human form as defective. The transformation begins gradually, with his arm developing prawn-like characteristics. Wikus experiences painful cellular transformation as the alien DNA spreads throughout his body. As he changes, he gains the ability to operate prawn weaponry, which only functions with prawn DNA. The biological lockout mechanism on prawn weapons highlights the fundamental differences between species. By the film's end, Wikus is completely transformed and physically indistinguishable from the prawns. The transformation is irreversible, forcing him to live among the very aliens he once oppressed. His rejection by human society, including his own wife, forces him to find acceptance among the prawns. Wikus's transformation serves as powerful social commentary on apartheid and xenophobia. By forcing the protagonist to literally become the other he previously discriminated against, the film creates empathy through body horror. The irreversibility of his transformation means he must permanently live with the consequences of his prejudices, experiencing life from the perspective of the marginalized. Tetsuo Shima. Akira's Tetsuo Shima undergoes a catastrophic transformation when psychic powers literally tear his body apart. Tetsuo is a young biker gang member who manifests psychokinetic powers after a motorcycle injury in Katsuhiro Otomo's 1988 anime, Akira. He becomes a test subject in the secret government program surrounding Akira, designed to imbue subjects with telekinetic abilities. Tetsuo's powers are compounded by his frequent drug use, causing unbearable headaches that only increase his drug consumption. This creates a brutal cycle where his powers grow stronger as he uses them, driving him further into depraved quests to end his constant pain. His awakening came much later than other psychic children, making his power more intense and uncontrollable. At the film's climax, Tetsuo loses all control, and his body begins mutating into a giant fleshy blob. The transformation occurs because his physical human body can no longer contain Akira's awakened psychic powers. His body essentially explodes, and he cannot control the regrowth, becoming a massive organic mass. In the manga, Tetsuo eventually becomes an entire universe, transcending physical form completely. Tetsuo's transformation represents the ultimate loss of bodily autonomy when power exceeds the vessel containing it. The drug cycle creates a tragic spiral where the solution to his pain only makes it worse, mirroring addiction narratives. His mutation into a flesh blob is anime's most disturbing body horror sequence, showing what happens when godlike power manifests in someone psychologically unprepared to handle it. Man Salaryman. Tetsuo, the Iron Man, features one of the most disturbing cyberpunk transformations ever filmed. An unnamed Japanese salaryman wakes up with pieces of metal sprouting from his body in Shinya Tsukamoto's 1989 cult film. His penis transforms into a massive rotating drill in the film's most infamous sequence. Metal growths continue appearing as he gradually transforms into a mass of twitching metal and flesh. A metal fetishist who he accidentally killed returns to haunt and pursue him. The metal represents the salaryman's repressed desires and sexual awakening. In the climax, the salaryman and metal fetishist fuse into a single grotesque entity, a two-person tank. They proclaim their love can put an end to this world before speeding into Tokyo streets. This transformation represents Japanese cyberpunk's unique focus on industrial body horror and man-machine fusion. Unlike Western cyberpunk's corporate themes, Tetsuo explores sexuality, repression, and desire through disturbing metal mutations. The fusion of the two men into a tank represents acceptance of desire and the destructive power of embracing one's true nature in a society demanding conformity. By the way, if you are enjoying this type of content, videos like this appear regularly. Subscribing would really help out. Rocket Raccoon. Guardians of the Galaxy's Rocket Raccoon hides a tragic origin of forced genetic experimentation. Subject 89P13 was a baby raccoon used as a test subject by the High Evolutionary in the MCU. The High Evolutionary sought to create a perfect counterworld populated by peaceful anthropomorphic animals. Rocket underwent rigorous surgical and genetic modification procedures that were extremely painful. Procedures included tampering with his brain and physical form to create a humanoid variant. A cybernetic skeleton was fitted inside his body through surgical implantation. His cerebral cortex was genetically augmented, making him far more intelligent than most other species in the universe. The gnarly scar on his head indicates where his brain structure was manipulated to grant speech and rational thought. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in 2023 fully explores these horrific origins. The High Evolutionary installed a kill switch in Rocket's heart to prevent tampering with his creation. Rocket's intelligence eventually allowed him to escape the life determined for him. Rocket's transformation is unique because it happened to him as a baby. He never experienced life as a normal raccoon. His trauma stems from being created as an experiment and then deemed disposable when he exceeded expectations. The scars he carries are both physical reminders and psychological wounds that define his defensive, aggressive personality throughout the MCU. Winter Soldier. Bucky Barnes' transformation into the Winter Soldier represents one of the MCU's most tragic brainwashing stories. James Bucky Barnes falls from a train during World War II and is captured by Hydra in Captain America: The First Avenger. He survives with brain damage and amnesia resulting from the explosion. Hydra scientists attach a bionic arm to replace his lost limb, periodically upgrading the technology. Arnim Zola leads the Hydra program that tortures and brainwashes Barnes into becoming the Winter Soldier. The process involves systematic physical and psychological torture combined with memory erasure. Electroshock therapy is repeatedly used to wipe Bucky's memories whenever he shows signs of independent thought or recalls his past. After each memory wipe, Hydra reinforces his Winter Soldier programming through repetitive verbal commands and physical training. A specific sequence of Russian trigger words was carefully chosen through deep hypnotic conditioning. These words create a fail-safe system that instantly reverts Bucky to his assassin persona, overriding emerging fragments of his original identity. Between missions, Barnes is placed in cryogenic sleep to prevent aging and preserve their asset. He commits numerous assassinations throughout the 20th century without memory of his actions. Bucky eventually regains his autonomy with help from Wakandan technology that removes his programming. The Winter Soldier transformation is horrifying because Bucky remains alive throughout, trapped inside his own mind as a passenger, while Hydra uses his body as a weapon. The systematic erasure of identity through torture represents the ultimate loss of autonomy. Major Kusanagi. Ghost in the Shell's Major Kusanagi exists as a human consciousness trapped in a fully artificial body, questioning what makes us human. Major Motoko Kusanagi's entire body is cybernetic, with only her brain and spinal cord remaining organic in the 1995 anime. She was involved in a plane crash as a child and spent time in a coma. Her ghost, or consciousness, was transferred into a fully prosthetic body without her prior consent. The transfer happened while she was still a child, meaning she never experienced adult life in a fully human body. Kusanagi constantly questions whether she retains a human soul, or if her thoughts are merely programmed responses. Her existential crisis centers on the ship of Theseus paradox. If all parts are replaced, does the essence change? The film's plot involves tracking the Puppet Master, an AI consciousness that achieved sentience. At the film's climax, Kusanagi chooses to merge her consciousness with the Puppet Master AI. The fusion creates a new entity, possessing memories of both Kusanagi and the Puppet Master. Her partner Bato transfers their merged consciousness into the body of a young girl. The ending is deliberately ambiguous about whether Kusanagi still exists or if something entirely new was created. Major Kusanagi's transformation asks fundamental questions about consciousness and identity. If your brain is all that remains, are you still you? The film suggests that memories and experiences, not the physical vessel, define identity. Alita. Alita Battle Angel's protagonist exists as a centuries-old consciousness in constantly changing mechanical bodies. Dr. Dyson Ito discovers a disembodied female cyborg with an intact human brain in an Iron City scrapyard in 2563, 300 years after Earth's catastrophic war. He unites the brain with a new cyborg body and names her Alita after his deceased daughter. Alita's original body is destroyed during a fight with the giant cyborg Gruishka. She discovers an advanced berserker body from her past as a URM soldier. Ito initially refuses to transplant her into it, fearing the consequences of combining her consciousness with lost Martian military technology. After her body's destruction, Ito performs the transplant, which unlocks more of her lost memories. In the manga continuity, Alita has been a cyborg since early childhood, possibly as far back as she can remember. Alita's story explores identity persistence across multiple bodies. Unlike characters who undergo a single transformation, she has changed bodies multiple times over centuries. The film asks whether someone remains the same person when every physical component has been replaced except their brain. Lucy. Lucy transforms from helpless victim to godlike entity as a synthetic drug unlocks 100% of her brain capacity. Lucy is an American woman living in Taipei who is forced by her boyfriend to deliver a briefcase to crime boss Mr. Zhang. She is surgically implanted with a packet of synthetic drug CPH4 to smuggle it. When captors kick and beat her, the drug packet ruptures and leaks directly into her system. CPH4 begins increasing her brain capacity beyond the supposed 10% humans normally use, based on a debunked myth. As her capacity increases, Lucy gains telekinesis, telepathy, and control over matter and energy. She can manipulate electromagnetic waves, read minds, and access digital information wirelessly. Professor Norman explains the theoretical progression as her brain capacity approaches approaches 100%. At 90% capacity, Lucy can manipulate time and space, traveling backward through human history. The film is directed by Luc Besson and stars Scarlett Johansson. At 100% capacity, Lucy transcends physical form entirely, becoming omnipresent. She leaves behind a USB drive containing all her accumulated knowledge before disappearing. Lucy's transformation represents an extreme interpretation of human potential if cognitive limits were removed. While the 10% brain myth is scientifically false, the film uses it as a launching point to explore what unlimited mental capacity might look like. The transformation from victimized woman to omnipotent being inverts typical action movie gender dynamics. Jake Sully. Avatar's Jake Sully undergoes the rare sci-fi transformation, where a consciousness permanently transfers from one body to another. Jake Sully is a paraplegic former Marine, recruited for the Avatar program on Pandora in James Cameron's 2009 film. The program links his consciousness to a lab-grown Na'vi body through a psionic link, allowing him to pilot it. Initially, this transformation is temporary. Jake returns to his human body when disconnecting from the link. He is sent undercover to infiltrate the Omaticaya clan and convince them to relocate from their sacred home tree. Jake falls in love with Neytiri and gradually embraces Na'vi culture, choosing them over humanity. After the battle between humans and Na'vi, Jake decides to remain on Pandora permanently. The Na'vi perform a sacred ritual at the Tree of Souls to permanently transfer his consciousness. The ritual takes place on August 24th, 2154, with Jake's recording showing the time as approximately 1910 or 7:10 in the evening. His consciousness passes from his human body through the Eye of Awa and into his avatar body. The permanent transfer occurs between 7:30 and 8:30 in the evening, making it literally his birthday as a Na'vi. Jake refers to it as not wanting to be late for his own party, since it is his birthday. When he opens his eyes at the end, he has been reborn as a full Na'vi. Jake's transformation is remarkable because it is one of few sci-fi stories where consciousness permanently transfers bodies and the original body dies. Most stories keep an escape hatch. The original survives, or could potentially be restored. Jake burns that bridge completely, dying as a human to be reborn as Na'vi. If this was valuable, consider subscribing so you never miss new content. Thanks for watching.